Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Care Manager. My name is Ryan Abramski. I'm the Business Development Director, and I'm joined with Teresa Jackson, the Director of Care Management. The both of us work for EasyLiving. We're a home care and care management agency serving the Tampa Bay area for over 20 years. The Ask a Care Manager series is brought to you by Senior Living Resource Magazine and their website, seniorlivingguide.com. They're your one-stop local and statewide resource for all things in senior housing and health. Anything from home care like EasyLiving to assisted living facilities, memory care, senior health, and care management. Check out Senior Living Resource Magazine and their website, seniorlivingguide.com. And here's an example of their book here. Lots of great information and lots of great resources in here. Check their magazine out and check their website out today. All right. And Teresa, welcome again to another episode. So, was having a conversation with one of our amazing law enforcement professionals, Officer Joel, last week. He is with the Largo Police Department, and a lot of his focus for his job is with the senior community. So last week we were talking, and he had mentioned something interesting. Last week we kind of talked about the financial aspect of, power of attorneys, living wills, financial POAs. So that kind of led to the conversation about financial exploitation. So he had mentioned to me that they have seen a massive uptick in the last couple of months, especially with our senior population of being financially exploited from all different scams and ways. And, one of the people I think was a couple $100,000. I mean, so we're talking large sums of money, and they're really going after these senior people right now. And he said it's just been a growing problem last couple of months, and I'm sure that has to do with the pandemic and people probably feeling a little bit more financially strapped right now and turning to crime. So I wanted to see if we could talk about ways our not just our senior population, but anyone can avoid senior financial exploitation, and then especially with their seniors, like, what can they do? What are some of the signs and what are some of the resources that these individuals can reach out to, to protect themselves or report something?
And what a great topic, Ryan, because this topic I have true passion about, because there's nothing more that infuriates me than knowing that people move to Florida and come here to take advantage of our seniors. I mean, that's their job. That's what they do. And that's how they plan on making a living. And you're absolutely right. Now that we've had increased isolation by the victims and the people that are committing these crimes, I'm sure there's an uptick in cases being reported. I mean, one of the risk factors of being financially exploited is social isolation. So, and then think about it too. You're isolated. Somebody calls you. You're going to want to engage in conversation because you're missing that. And then the next thing you know, you've gone down this rabbit hole of you're providing them information that enables them to maybe drain your bank account or purchase items with your information. So, oddly enough, one of the other risk factors is actually living with someone. So it's interesting that both ends of the spectrum can be a risk factor. Unfortunately, the majority of financial exploitation is committed by family members, people that you know. So I know it is. We're actually working with a client right now who is financially exploited by a family member. Apparently the person told somebody that, well, because he has dementia, I need to help. And it enabled her to have access to credit cards and it's over $30,000 worth of purchases that person made on behalf of the family member, who's like, no, this isn't me. I didn't do this. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that you can do, one is, well, okay, first of all, let's talk about exploitation. So what is it? It is illegally taking, misusing, or the concealment of funds, property, or assets of a vulnerable client. And in the state of Florida, everybody is a mandatory reporter when it comes to abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation. So who would you reach out to? I've got the telephone number here somewhere. You would reach out to, you report abuse to the Department of Family, and that can be done. And you can add this to our website, but it's reportabuse.dcf.state.fl.us.
Yeah, we'll put all those links and phone numbers down below.
And we'll add the phone number. There's an 800 number that you can call. But again, we are all reporters, but you do have to have evidence. And, you know, if a family member is not willing to file a police report, then it's really questionable whether or not you have enough evidence to report. So unfortunately, one of the things that has to occur is you have to file a police report. And in the case that we're working with, we know about what's reported, but seniors tend to not report because they're embarrassed. I mean, if somebody took me for a scam, I'm not going to be telling everybody about it. I'll be embarrassed. And so because they feel like that if they do report it, then they might start losing some of their independence. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard.
Absolutely. And, you know, I know, unfortunately, some of the recent scams that Officer Joel was saying, and it might not be, you know, something savvy, but they're scaring these individuals. Mm-hmm. They're acting like they're the police and saying that they have a family member in custody. They're also acting like the IRS or, you know, like the electric company and threatening them with, you know, being jailed for not paying their IRS bill. And they're also being threatened to have their power shut off or whatever shut off because they're not paying these bills. And I think, you know, using these kind of tactics is just absolutely awful. I mean, doing it in the first place is awful, but, you know, using a tactic where you're scaring someone into doing this, I think it might just be worse than, you know, not even realizing something's happening.
Well, and I chuckle here because just last night I was working late in the office and the phones are forwarded to our on-call care manager, but we have different lines. So if a different line rings, it'll come in. And it said Pinellas County Utilities. And I'm like, oh, I better answer this. So I answer it. And it was the recording saying that electricity is going to be shut off tomorrow for non-payment. And I'm thinking, because sometimes we will monitor clients' bills that they pay and send out reminders to them that, you know, don't forget you need to pay your electric bill, you know, so we do assist very limitedly in that capacity, in that role. So I pick it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, somebody's, you know, I wonder which client this could be regarding. So I reached out to our CEO and he's like, Teresa, honey, that's a scam. He didn't call me honey, but he said, Teresa, that's a scam. And it's like, and I almost fell for it. I'm worried. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's electricity is going to be cut off.
Mm-hmm. And they've made it sound so professional too. Because I think we've all received these calls, and I know that on our cell phones a lot of times now you're starting to see the cell phone companies say spam risk and stuff like that. But a lot of our elderly population still utilize a home phone and maybe not utilizing a cell phone that's kind of filtering these calls out. So they're, you know, and they do sound very professional and they're very scripted. And I think that's what's the biggest issue here is how convincing that they sound to these individuals, especially an elderly person, like you said, who's isolated and on, you know, taking a phone call and, you know, hearing these threatening or scary, you know, situations.
And I do have a list, if I can go over it, of just some of the red flags that you might come across, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's hear what people should be looking for.
An unexplained transfer of clients' money to family members, which people don't realize that could interfere with their inability to get Medicaid services, even if it was not done, even if the elderly person did not give them that money. If it was stolen, again, if they're not reporting this, the state's going to look at it as a gift, and you can't be gifting your money away in order to get on Medicaid. Discovering that the person's signature is being forged for financial transactions. If all of a sudden there's long lost relatives being involved in claiming that they have the right to somebody's money or their possessions, or even if the person themselves say, that's the biggest, when they do finally confess and say, hey, I have been financially exploited, you need to take that to heart and see what can be done. Are bills not being paid? Is care not being provided when you know that the person has the resources for care? And that's one of the frustrating things that we see most often is, well, they have resources, they can provide, they could pay for care, but care's not being provided because maybe there's a family member that thinks, well, that's going to be my inheritance, so I deserve that money. So I'm not going to spend it on care for my father, my mother, my great aunt, or whomever it might be, because I deserve that money. Or wills or other financial documents being changed. And, one of the things that we say is, to protect yourself, first of all, make sure you've got all your information together, and then make sure you've got a team that you surround yourself with, a financial planner, a care manager, an attorney who knows what your wishes are, what your assets are, that you don't have to give this information. If I'm choosing you as my power of attorney, I don't have to give you my numbers right away of what my finances are, but I have given that information to my attorney, and they know that I trust you and I'm choosing you. And when the time comes, I want you guys to work as a team. And that's the way it needs to be, because again, when you're isolated, you are setting yourself up to be a victim.
Absolutely. Well, Teresa, thank you so much for your information. And we'll put all the resources and contact numbers for financial exploitation, or if you suspect anyone has been taking advantage of that, we'll list the contact numbers and the websites below down in the description for this video. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us at EasyLiving and get in contact with one of our great care managers, and utilize their expertise too to see if there is a possibility that is occurring with someone. It could be a neighbor, could be a family member, or a friend. So always give us a shout. We'd be glad to assist in any way possible, and then obviously get you in the right direction if there is a situation where that is occurring. Get you in touch with the proper law enforcement or the proper officials to handle that to the next step. So, Teresa, again, thank you for your expertise. Always appreciate the information. And we thank all of you for joining us this week. Please like and share this video, and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you again.